Alice! You're never around when I need you! Coming. Oh, there you are, old boy. PJ, you won't believe this, but the
Figure will be delayed again for quality assurance.
Robin Hood. Get out of that if you can.
I'm Austin's Animals, collecting all things furry, and today we're going to be looking at the long-awaited Super 7 Ultimate Robin Hood action figure. But Shire, you've been avoiding your taxes. Before you review this figure, you should... Oh, I don't feel so good. No sore hiss, no shtick, no storyline today. This is business. This Super 7 Robin Hood action figure has been quite the saga. For those unaware, I received, or rather was gifted this action figure from my great dad, shout out to the dad, for my birthday. My birthday nearly 2 years ago. Yeah, I've been waiting 2 years for this action figure, as has everyone else. This thing has been delayed countless times for quality reassurance over and over again. So needless to say, the expectations from us fans are pretty high. Not to mention the demand and lack of Robin Hood action figures over the years. Despite being a Disney classic and an action-packed film, there's never been a super articulated action figure of the titular Robin Hood character. Now, earlier on this channel, I did review the Prince John figure that Super 7 released, and although that figure had some shortcomings, I was really impressed with it. It was a good figure, and I was excited for Robin Hood. So this is it, the big moment. Inside a shipping box was this cardboard box, and inside this cardboard box was our packaging. The packaging is very iridescent and shiny, and certainly makes an impression, which makes you wonder why, because this is never going to be sold in stores. It's a made-to-order online figure. The packaging design seems to be that of a tree stump with arrows stuck in it, and it has the Ultimates moniker above the top. And the big moment, this is it, the reveal, dun da da da. Yeah, Robin Hood, look at that presentation. The presentation and card back is really good, almost exceptional, and it's to a fault, because this is an online-only item. It's not carried at any retailers. From what I can understand, none of these will ship to retail. It's a made-to-order figure. So why does it have to look so nice? We even get a description on the back of the packaging telling us that Robin Hood is a cunning and righteous outlaw turned hero, as the master of both archery and disguise. He, along with his trusted sidekick Little John, are determined to put a stop to the greedy Prince John and his beloved taxes on the poor. He is Nottingham's only hope for justice. The presentation is absolutely outstanding, but for an online-only item that's never going to be at retail, that doesn't have to sell this character to people who don't know him, what's the point of having the packaging be so nice? The packaging for this action figure was excessive, and I had difficulty removing pieces like the stork head without damaging the figure. There's just so many different layers of packaging. I know a toy has to look presentable, but for an item that's never gonna be at retail, did we really need to chop down the entire forest moon of Endor? There is a megaton of accessories included with this figure. But to start things off, we're gonna ignore those accessories for now and get to the real meat of this review, and that's the Robin Hood action figure. After all, this is what we've been waiting for. This is the Super 7 Ultimate Robin Hood action figure. As soon as I popped out this Robin Hood action figure off the card, I thought, oh no, because he feels really, really cheap. I mean, embarrassingly cheap, like kids' meal quality bad. I know that's hard to describe because you can't feel the figure for itself, but I just want you to imagine this really hollow, shiny, kind of greasy plastic. And it's not shiny in a good way, in a toy way, it's in a cheap way. This whole figure just feels flimsy and like he's gonna break. The joints, they don't have a tightness to them. Some are really tight, like the shoulders, and some are really loose, like the legs and the forearms. The tail is completely embarrassing. It's not even made out of the plastic material as the rest of the figure. It is a hollow blow mold, like those old Halloween and Christmas decorations from the 70s. If you punch the tail with your finger, it will leave a dent in there. That is how cheap it is. Overall, this is not a good feel for an action figure. Now, as for how he displays, he doesn't look too hot either. The colors just look completely off. He looks so dull and muted and lifeless for the bright and colorful hero of Nottingham. First impressions of this guy are not good at all. I had a difficult time summing up why this figure felt so incredibly off to me, so I went into my collection of Robin Hood figures, and I found a PVC figure from the Disney store before it went out of business. It was actually the last thing I bought at the Disney store, and this PVC is simply marvelous. It's a wonderful figure, and shows exactly the faults of this one. Starting off with the head, you can see the one on the right, which is the Disney Store one, and the one on the left, which is the Super 7 one. First off, the general silhouette of the character. Super 7's figure looks lanky and thin and weak, and a little milquetoast. Now this is, because of the articulation, definitely hinders the sculpt. But if you look at the PVC on the right, you can see Robin Hood's kind of stature and his muscles. He is a heroic hero. He's not supposed to look soft or thin. The Super 7 figure on the left almost looks like the rabbit that kind of dresses up as Robin Hood in the movie, like the little kid that wants to be Robin Hood, rather than the heroic hero of Nottingham himself. Again though, this is an advantage of a PVC figure and not an articulated one, but once we get to the head, well, some of the differences become much more obvious. The PVC figure has a fur texture running down all of Robin Hood's skin, for lack of a better term, almost as if you were sculpting something and put a little knife cut all over the clay. It's a little detail, but it adds so much more life and makes Robin Hood look much more fox-like. Additionally, the fur is a brighter shade of red. Even on Robin Hood's hat, the kind of lapel that holds the feather onto the hat is painted on the PVC figure, yet on the Super 7 release, it is just solid red. Moving down to the torso, we have a very obvious miss that I could not believe was the first thing I noticed on the figure, and that's that the two buttons at the top of his shirt are not painted a darker green on the Super 7 figure. I know that's a nitpick, but it's really noticeable and makes the torso look unpainted. I don't know how a detail like that went undone. Additionally, the belt looks a little more accurate on the Disney Store release, and the tunic is much longer, which is needed because with the Super 7 figure, there are a lot of crossed angles that make Robin Hood, well, you can see where he's kind of got a breeze going there. And finally, the tail. I will say the Super 7 tail looks better. It looks a bit more fox-like and less sausage-like, although the material, again, is so horrific it is unforgivable. That tail is going to snap off that Super 7 figure with just a little bit of futzing. This guy just needs to stay on a shelf or that tail's going down. Holding this figure in my hand is just unbelievable. For one, I'm amazed the figure actually came after 2 years. And for two, well, it feels cheap. It doesn't just look cheap, it feels cheap. This really is a figure you have to hold in your hands to believe how truly awful it is. I hate to use a term like that, but it's true, this figure's a complete scam. For being called an ultimate Robin Hood? Okay, so look here, this is the McDonald's Happy Meal Robin Hood from the 1990s. The sculpting is not as good, it's a free kids toy, but it feels heftier than the Super 7 one. This is the Disney Store Robin Hood doll. This was like 20 bucks at the Disney Store when it came out. How come this isn't the ultimate Robin Hood? Looks pretty ultimate in my eyes. The colors are accurate, it looks like the character, and it's just a fun toy at an affordable price. So I'm stuffing him right here, and we're going on an adventure to get away from this figure. Nah, just kidding. I gotta look at all the accessories now. So there's a lot of accessories included with this figure, which kinda pad out the cost. I hate to say that, but that's definitely what it feels like. It is an excessive amount of stuff. Every single accessory is from the archery competition scene in the middle of the movie, where Robin Hood disguises himself as a stork to win the competition without Prince John seeing and winning the kiss of Maid Marian. We're given feathers, board heads. Let's transform him. Before Robin Hood goes in full stork mode, let's look at this alternate head that's included, which has Robin Hood when the arrow goes to his hat. It's definitely a goofy expression, and I'm not sure who would want to display Robin Hood in kind of a moment of weakness, but I almost like it better than the base head, just because it has more character to it. The first step to transforming Robin Hood into the stork is to switch his hands, so now's a good time to see how the bow fits in his hands, except it doesn't. I couldn't get the bow to fit in any of his hands. He comes with these alternate hands that are just meant for holding the bow, although putting them on was near impossible and the figure felt like it was gonna snap, so I tried to get the bow to fit in his regular hands. He also comes with this arrow placed on a cushion, which is from the archery scene, and I will say it might be the most fun accessory from the set, just because it's a neat little miniature and piece from the movie. Robin Hood can't hold it, although I guess you can kind of just sit it on his hand. But still, it is a kind of fun display piece, and is at least interesting. So I wanted to see if these hands can hold anything, and the answer to that is a resounding no. Even the thinnest Playmobil swords couldn't fit in his hand. Nothing. No Calico Critter accessory or action figure item could fit in these hands for the life of me. This goes for the other hand as well. And the bow hands are meant only for holding the bow, and even that I couldn't get to work. You know you're in trouble when the Disney Store PVC, which doesn't have any articulation, can hold the Playmobil sword, and the Super 7 figure can't. What good is an ultimate action figure if it can't hold anything? I will admit I'm procrastinating. I absolutely dread transforming Robin Hood into his stork form. It just seems like a waste of time when I want to display the titular fox character. See, a lot of people thought online, because the pre-order for this figure showed Robin Hood side by side with his stork form, that the stork figure was actually a second action figure that was packed in with Robin Hood. But nope, it's only one figure with a transforming action feature. You have to pop Robin Hood at the center and pop on a new set of legs, new set of feet, new set of hands, new head, and new tunic. Yes, this means when you completely transform the figure, the only piece shared between the two is Robin Hood's upper chest. So if Super 7 had just included one upper chest piece, we'd be given two complete action figures. That is incredibly frustrating. What's even more frustrating than the lack of just having two figures is the transformation itself. Oh my goodness, this was completely stressful. I didn't think it could get any more stressful than opening the figure, but this transformation just sucked. The tunic doesn't have any back snaps like traditional doll or Barbie clothing, meaning if you transformed the figure without putting the tunic on, you have to do like I do here. You have to take the whole thing apart and reassemble from the start and put the tunic on first. So if you're transforming this figure, put the tunic on first before switching any of the other pieces, otherwise your handiwork will be redundant. Putting this tunic on was a lot of work, and because those upper arm joints were so tight, I couldn't help but feel like they were gonna snap off at any moment. Stork Robin's wings are really long and attach at the shoulder, so in order to attach them, you have to slide the arm pretty much through the entire tunic and get them to click, which I want to note, yes, is also frustrating and feels like it's gonna break. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but this action figure really should have been made of more sturdy material, especially for its $55 price tag. As we near the completion of the stork, I had a lot of trouble getting on the last few pieces to fit, namely the head and the feet. I don't know if you've had this problem, but for me, the feet would simply not click in, and the head was too small for the ball joint to attach. So my final transformed Robin Hood stork just kinda stands there like this. The slightest little movement and he completely falls apart. I guess I could, with a heat gun, try and get this figure to stick together, but I'm not gonna sacrifice my Fox Robin Hood for a stork transformation that is quite frankly dumb. Yes, it's a fun scene in the movie, and for a transforming action figure in a kid's toy line, I think it would have been a fantastic idea. For example, look at this Shrek figure I'm showing on the screen. This is from Shrek 2 when he transforms into the human. It's a really fun toy because you get both versions of Shrek, and the whole disguise costume change gimmick is a lot of fun for kids. If this was a kid-focused toy line, I think a simple stork transforming figure would have been an awesome action figure. But for a collector's piece that's really just gonna sit on the shelf for adults, none of us care about the scene where he turns into a stork. We want our main fox. This gimmick gets a thumbs down from me, and I feel like most of this action figure was crafted with this gimmick in mind. If you look at the awkward sculpt that's lanky looking, and the many different tight joints in different places, some are loose, it's like they designed the figure with this transformation feature in mind, but didn't really stop and think for a moment if people actually wanted to transform this figure. They thought about so much if they could, they didn't think about whether they should. This is by far the most negative review I've ever done on my channel, but I can't express enough how much I am disappointed in this release. Now, as an action figure, Robin Hood is completely serviceable. It's far from a horrible action figure, and had he been sold at retail for about $25 to $30, I probably would have given him a decent review. Sure, he's got a couple of mistakes and obvious errors, but when compared with the likes of other collector action figures, he's pretty decent. The issue is that this was sold 2 years in advance as a very high-end action figure, practically treated as a doll in the way it was marketed. I was expecting a lot more, and this was supposed to be the ultimate Robin Hood. Check out this photo. Now look at it with the saturation cranked up, and you can already start to see where the missteps are. In the history of Robin Hood toys, this figure is just another footnote, just another company that tried to cash in on the success of Robin Hood with a half-baked action figure. And it's a shame because Robin Hood has had a long history of neglect from Disney and has been in need of some merchandise. When the Prince John figure initially shipped last year, I had high hopes in Super 7. Prince John was a high-quality figure. He was doll-like in his beautiful soft goods robe, shiny crown, and articulation. It's hard to believe that Prince John and Robin Hood are part of the same action figure line. Robin Hood just doesn't measure up to Prince John. It's shocking how the quality dropped off for this release, and I am incredibly disappointed. Granted, I'm stuck with the figure now, and I'll be happy to have a posable Robin Hood in my collection. Despite his shortcomings, Robin Hood does photograph quite well, especially if you turn up the saturation. The figure instantly starts to look better, as you see in these photos right here. But for $55, I'd say buyers stay away, wait for a sale price, or better yet, keep Prince John from robbing you of your money.